It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's April 1st. I think the humans, they pronounce April 1st as April Fool's Day, although I can't find that on a calendar. I'm watching TV today, and it's not February, which was Black History. It's not March, which they claim, although it's not on a calendar, either one of them, to be Women's Month. So now we're in April, it's the first day, and on comes this commercial. And in symbolic terms, it says Winston-Salem with an IO or a 1 and 0. Now, at whatever, I heard something Asian call another Asian yesterday IO. I do not know what that means to them. I'll be very zen on that one, at Machine Heads. Then there was an American flag next to it, or what they call American flag, but they also call it the U.S. flag, but they also call it the American flag, which gets really confusing, being where I am. And, like, if there's an assumption at some point that that machine, the televised, is some form of mastery of something else that the public has no idea about, if it's some kind of mastery club being represented with a capital M, and it's an ID of the IO, being it could be any IO, being of Zen and whatever, Viking descent of the idiot SAVANT in receivership for the imps and the imp's hand, there's this dance that goes on. So in a idiot savant, a mental midget, if you will, to the things that are in some form of mastery class trying to communicate with idiots everywhere having access to it and completely blowing missions points and control. From mission ground zero, I'm in a big apple with a horn and a banana phone to nowhere, or nowhere that I can verify or vet that his teacher's pet is actually being heard and taken care of. I heard yesterday Biden say something about Putin's being misinformed and that some of his best advisors are put under house arrest. I'm like, oh, there's a scary thought. I'm like, now, do they put the advisors under house arrest to protect the advisors from the ill-begots beyond? Or is it some form of punishment, further punishment? I mean, again, it gets confusing in this big wide world of war sports and war horses, and it's a man's world, yes, but there's a fleet, there's a hand that feeds, then there's the arm that you hold in respectable, ladylike, and to gentleman territory, and then there's the staff, there's the council, and then there's mistakes that go on. I know they're not supposed to be mistakes, but, well, I am living proof around me that there have been mistakes made. So now that gets confusing. So I wrote, I see a commercial in this Winston-Salem mention of, I have no idea what that means. It's some further black movement, it looks like, but it has a sponsor. Now my question is, because it says AFLAC, that's the sound it makes, but it's AF, which normally is indicative for me of Air Force, and then it's a LAC. I mean, see, AF and LAC, and then underneath it they're making it a black movement. But the visualization, the Coptic reference seems to be growing in this larger misinformed or maelstrom or malformation, which in the background lacks what is needed to continue. But I'm confused in movement. What did I write? Who's the sponsor of the movement, the mention, the commercial, the commencement? It's because I lack the background of this understate with this overstate in some mastery class that, again, I know I've run into, at least in my lifetime, one mid-size SUV that fits in a helicopter. I'm absolutely certain of that. I've met one minimum. I just don't know how to gain access to that level of importance on a daily basis. And so this is my part up here as savoir, back to the idiom in my correct genealogy or heraldry or lineage or whatever it's called. Since I'm the one who somebody's hung a shingle on, looks like shingles to me, and I have no idea how that original vaccination spirochet or spiraled into somebody hanging a really disgusting biological attack upon my person in hanging shingles, in germ warfare, during someone else's fight, and being a casualty, not by choice. And this is what it looks like.
Legendary. The rich history of historically black colleges and universities will be on full display in New Orleans.
So New Orleans, that's interesting for Jamais de Fleur. Jamais de Fleur, the friend of the flower. I met one of those once walking out of a building. Completely caught me off guard. I was just, no, I said, oui. I mean, again, I understand, but I just am taken aback by the break in the normal pattern of saying hello and farewell or goodbye in walking out of a building. In this Long Island, there's, I don't know, the humans have their patterns of how they address one another. And then to have someone address you so differently was just, it made me stop. Made me stop dead in my tracks at the moment. So this is what the end of the mention is. It's, again, see, af, and then it's got a lack, and there's a duck there. The kiddos here play duck, duck, goose, as kids. I don't know what tie-in that has. Now, if I go backwards...
Legendary.
Now here it says Earl the Pearl Monroe. Well, that's interesting, considering I went for a long time as roamer to protect Alexander James with Benjamin, as the go-to hand, even though it was smaller than I was. And then it has this number on it. And I don't know what this reference is. And it has this, it has 11 up here in elf for Zwolf.
The rich history of historically black colleges and...
I saw an Eagles reference. Here's a Jackson State. I don't know, that's Mississippi.
And universities will be on full display in New Orleans Sunday on CBS. I'd like to...
So that gets confusing. There's also this morning a mention about Hertz again, but not H-U-R-T-S, although it's a very good parasite for paradox and parallel for paratrooper, for what I'm going through in this range of motion that has locomotion from I don't know where, but it is so painful with the shingle that was hung in some ill-begot, unbeknownst to my behest. Now here in the HERTZ closet of false arrests and the public's view on a separate story, the front story is this rental car company where you don't have to own a car, you just rent it and then you give it back. But because of some misfiling of paperwork, they're arresting the people that are their customers. And so there's that. Then there's some Oklahoma mention of detainee, which, again, I, as a couch potato, and, like, whatever, unsuspecting victim to this game that's going on of law enforcement, have no idea what detainee is as opposed to arrest, because when you're in handcuffs, it looks the same. Just saying, it's confusing. And it's just as humiliating. And why would somebody want to humiliate someone else falsely?
Welcome back to CBS Mornings here at 7:30.
But also with high-frequency crime at its all-time peak at the moment, damaging cellular genetics. There's another argument hidden in there. You know, it almost feels like in Bruce Willis came out with this aphasia, which nobody really can define. I mean, they're trying, the humans, they really are trying to define it with whatever mastery is speaking and whispering in their ears. I hear their attempts at vocabulary and constructing some mastery form of one brain amongst them, which, whatever, for solidarity purpose, which I know that has importance. But there's this, like, there's the first brain, and then there's this second brain. It's like the first Earth, the second Earth, and then the fight for the third nation somewhere in between. It feels like at the moment. It's almost like they removed the first brain and they creepily hot-wired in some less than worthy second brain. And it is a real struggle as a human to work within the confines of that second brain. It is such a struggle on a daily basis to physically move within the acclimate because it's not pressurized correctly, it's not built correctly, and then to have the humans malfunction in their directive and executive and locomotion function, and then their sound stage, everything they say is wrong, or partially right, partially wrong, and having to weed through that and try to then image consult. And I heard today, Bruce Willis isn't speaking. He's got some publisher. I'm like, now how do you get a at what point in your life does someone say, we should get you a publisher? I mean, like, again, how do you get into these groups that protect you and want to be family with you and throughout your career support you? I'm just curious. It gets a little confusing at moonlighting freelancing, and some other word I had in, but now it eludes me.
7:30, the car rental giant Hertz is under new pressure this morning, in part for the alleged false arrests of its own customers. Stories we've been telling you about for months now. Our consumer investigative correspondent, that's Anna Werner, has spoken to multiple people who say their lives have been upended by Hertz's actions. And now Senator Richard Blumenthal, citing CBS News reporting, has written a letter to the company's CEO demanding it, quote, take immediate steps to remedy the problems for customers. Anna Werner joins us now. Anna, just a wild, wild story, and it continues. Good morning.
Good morning. That's right. Senators are turning up the heat on Hertz, even as more people are coming forward to say they, too, had encounters with police after renting a car from Hertz.
Sir, are you in that Nissan with
Yes, sir.
The man being put in handcuffs is a former federal law enforcement officer.
You're just being detained, you understand? Okay. All right.
He was on a business trip in Oklahoma City on May.
They're saying this gentleman was a former federal officer. Now that gets confusing. Which Fed? Because I've heard just recently on the idiom to idiot savant and being the savoir of the idiom in my own mastery of egregious whatever. I am just curious. The idiot box of some mastery, not my own, but of whatever is behind the message, could be anyone's idiom, is speaking to the ill-begot, saying there's a Hispanic Federation and that there is a Russian Federation. This gets confusing at ill-begot with no mastery or master in proximity to vocate with, vocationally, for correct vernacular in verbiage. I'm just saying, these are the daily things that I'm having them. I mean, if I think Sound of Music and like, what are the things that, you know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right, ti, and then do. Usually it ends with that. So I'm looking around going, Big Apple calling with the horn to the Bananas Association with I don't know who. I'm having trouble understanding human again. I don't know what they've done. I don't know what our side is trying to do to fix it. But there's some things that don't look right and are confusing the issues.
May 9th of last year, he says, when he stopped at a convenience store. He doesn't want his name used because he used to work undercover, but told us...
One of the officers approached me and asked me, hey, is that your car out there, white vehicle out there yours? And I said, yes, sir, it's a rental car.
He'd rented the car from Hertz just a few hours earlier, but police told him the car was reported stolen.
Much to my surprise, I ended up in the back of the police car.
So he pulled up his Hertz rental agreement on his phone and handed it to the officer.
Still not good enough?
Well, I'm trying to see where the actual car is that shows this specific car.
I was getting frustrated because we've been at this for probably more than 30 minutes.
His frustration boiled over, he says, in a sarcastic comment to the officer.
I made that up. I'm sorry. I made that email up tonight.
Which resulted in this exchange.
Because I can book you into the worst county jail in the entire United States right now, just based on me watching you leave that car and it being reported as stolen. Just like that, okay? And that's a felony charge you'll have to bond out on.
I apologize.
But then the officers...
Felony charge and bond. These are not household words. Like in the Lou is leading this Linda and Nicole chain of whatever. If I go ask Lou, maybe he knows how to explain it, but I would have no reason of what is this bond that you speak of. And if he's actually correct on like how it works in the grand schematic of things, like these things were not taught in public school. I think they had to have some kind of vocational training after they were held captive for a set amount of years in wherever they were born, wasting their lives away in something called a school. But that didn't really earn, because there was really no learning. It was just, I don't know.
And tells the officer he didn't steal this vehicle.
This guy did not steal this vehicle.
Correct.
Hertz told us it did notify police the car had been recovered, but the car was still listed as stolen in the National Police Database, leading to what this former officer says was a potentially dangerous situation.
You have police recovering cars for Hertz. I mean, this is crazy. Officers can get hurt. First responders can get hurt. And then you're talking about the safety of officers and the safety of the general public.
It's a concern one former Hertz manager agrees with. Daniel Stokes says he was arrested at his house in 2006 after renting a car from his own company.
They looked in the garage, they looked up and down the street, asking me, drilling me, where's the car, where's the car? Car's not here. I said, I returned that vehicle close to a year ago.
He says he was handcuffed in front of his daughters.
Daughters are upset, trying to figure out what's going on to their dad. It was pretty traumatic.
Especially traumatic for Stokes because he says he had spent nearly 13 years working for Hertz, including as a manager overseeing 24 branches in the Las Vegas area. He told us theft reports were filed too often.
Why do you say that?
Because it's not actually a theft. They still know where the vehicle is. They still can find the vehicle. That's the frustrating part to me. These are more collection issues than theft issues.
They're not committing a crime. They're not stealing a car, essentially, is what you're saying.
They have no intent of stealing the car.
And nor did he says. He later paid Hertz $750 restitution for the late rental return, and the court dismissed charges filed against him. Now, members of Congress are...
So let me get this straight. So the man did absolutely nothing, yet he has to pay a court $750. I mean, I've had this happen. I was driving myself on a parkway, and a state trooper pulled me over. They did a breathalyzer. They had me walk, which I did, which I was fine because I wasn't drinking. Coming home from Marone's house, no less, for RVC, and gave me 2 tickets. One for my light being out, and one for something else. Seatbelt, which I had on, or light out and something else. And then I go to the court, because now I have to show up for these stupid things. Or I went to fix my light, and BMW tells me there was nothing wrong with the light still works. And I'm like, right, okay. So then I go to the court, I show them that paper, and they make me pay whatever the surcharge is to them for their time. Well, how does that, I mean, so inconvenient that you even bother me with this whole circus. I mean, it's just, it's patronizing, or it's whatever of the public. I mean, and then making the public pay on top of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, this commercial's curious. This is Stephen Colbert, which I don't really watch, but sometimes they have snippets of his, and it says something about a second pandemic. I'm like, now where would that come from? But right before the Stephen Colbert about the second pandemic comes a commercial for NYPD Blue Bloods.
We judge ourselves by our good intentions, but we are judged by our last worst act.
On New Blue Bloods tonight, 10/9 Central on CBS.
The White House is proposing to jack up the FDA's budget aimed at preparing for another pandemic. You don't get another pandemic until you finish your first one.
We are missing
Elton John, Farewell, Yellow Brick Road, the final tour. Second show added, Sunday, July 24th at MetLife Stadium. American Express card members, you can get early access to tickets.
American Express early access. And it's their farewell tour. Now he doesn't go by Mr. John. He goes by a Sir Elton John. Now, how does one pull out of an argument that they may have had a hand in starting? I'm just curious. At MetLife Stadium? Well, isn't that curious?
Pre-sale is available now through Tuesday, April 5th at 10 p.m. before the general public on Wednesday, April 6th at 10 a.m. For Amex Early Access, visit EltonJohn.com. Elton John, Farewell, Yellow Brick Road, the final tour. Supplies limited. American Express terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Because Yellow Brick Road is a reference to the Wizard of Oz, the Emerald City. That is his neck of the wood, is it not? Somewhere in British territory. There's Dorothy with her red shoes and her blue dress and her white smock or frock, depending on what area of the world you're in some gingham check. And then there's the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow, the heart, the courage, and the brains, walking down this yellow brick road to find this elusive Emerald City with this one wizard who can bring us all home. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And it's April 1st, 2022, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. Now this is interesting, just as a side note, there's something called Colgate. And the commercial for Colgate, which is a toothpaste, that's their actress portrayal, leads into another interesting mention by the idioms.
Stains for a Pro Series smile. New Colgate Optic White Pro Series.
Optic White. Interesting.
My asthma felt anything but normal.
Now, they call this new normal. But they spell new like nuclear bomb. Just saying.
It was time for a new normal with Nucala. Nucala reduces asthma attack.
For breathing problems. An asthma breathing problem. And that's the new normal. I mean, like, is there any good in the world? So now I can't breathe, and now you're in the mastery idiom, speaking to my idiot savant, who has SAVOIR to a different master elsewhere. It's just curious. This is what they went with on whatever that means. I don't know if that's a spin on Nicole, I think the Australians like to use that type of diction or intonation or melodic whatever.
Attacks. It's a once-monthly add-on treatment for severe eosinophilic asthma, not for sudden breathing problems. Allergic reactions can occur.
Oh, look at this. So you take the medicine because you can't breathe. And allergic reactions causing anaphylaxis. Oh my God. So you already can't breathe. You take the medicine and you might breathe worse. Because you might have this like crazy allergic reaction in the medic terms of allergy. And then ana, the phi, and the lax is something. Is how that reads.
Get help right away for swelling of face, mouth, tongue, or trouble breathing. Infections that can cause...
So I can't breathe. I take this magic whatever that your nuclear ballistic warhead might or might not have wanted, whatever. And then all of a sudden my tongue, neck, and throat might swell. But I was having trouble breathing. Now I have a even more disgusting turnout because the medicine didn't work for my person because you didn't actually want to help me. It turns into some poisonous event and an allergic reaction.
Cause shingles have occurred. Don't stop steroids unless
Oh, and something about shingles have occurred. Well, isn't that interesting? Where are the rule makers? Where's the oversight committee? Where are the, like, Justice League on this one?
Must told by your doctor. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. May cause headache, injection site reactions, back pain, and fatigue.
Ask your asthma specialist about a new normal with Nicole.
Oh, and it comes by injection. Inoculation, injection, a shot, a poke, whatever word you use, that's how they administer it. And really frightening businesses that have grown very big farms, but not the agricultural kind, more the agitate kind.